Okay, so thanks for everyone that's here. Thanks for everyone that's tuning in live. That's how you get accounted for present and in the attendance. So you got to be here on the Zoom or you got to be here live. So today we're going to be talking about Vertex Form. This is stuff we introduced yesterday, with the Directrix in focus. We're going to do that again today. I had a couple people express during the day yesterday that they were really kind of confused with it. It's fine. It was kind of an intro day. I kind of threw you in the deep end, so we'll clean it up a little bit. We'll try to get you to the point where you feel a little more comfortable with it today. My goal is to do about 2 or 3 examples of these to make sure that you know exactly how to do each type. I'll let you guys choose some problems so you guys can choose some numbers for me, and we'll just kind of wing it from there. And then the idea is that today your Google question of the day will go live, and that's the one that you have to answer. It's kind of different than normal, right? I'm going to provide you a problem on the Google question. You're going to have to answer it for that specific problem. So for those from period 9, I'll make sure that I'll share that with you here in a little bit. So because I know we got a couple people from period 9 that are in today. So, but yeah, so we have homework due tonight by 11:59. So if you have not started that homework yet, it's due today. That was one from Friday last week. That was finding the max and mins on a graph using completing the square. So that was the highest and lowest point. It's right where the vertex was, right where those points came on a parabola. And we walked through those specific examples of how to do that. So again, homework's due tonight. Gradebook will be up to date today. So I'm still entering in grades from geometry. So you guys are the next on the docket. No joke. Period 3 is next on the docket. So I got almost all my geometry classes done. So it'll be all the pre-calc kids will be next, period 3 and 9. So, and then I'll move on to calc. So, but yeah, so make sure that if you have missing work, if you have any LIs, you should see it in the JMC, that all those categories. But also you should be able to see if you didn't turn it in on the Google Classroom. It keeps reminding you that you have late work constantly. You need to get those turned in. Some people they just don't check that ever. That's where I put all the homework from now on. It's in Google Classroom, so you can submit it there. It makes it a lot easier so you know if you've turned it in, if you haven't, whether I've graded it or not, that type of thing. So, but yeah, so it's one of those things that just make sure that I've had a couple incidences with my geometry kids where they've turned it in, but they forgot to attach the work to it. I need to see the work. I can't just go off of you turning it in. Right? I got to see the work so I can grade it and kind of look at what problems you had. So I think Google question just went live, so we'll have to wait for a little bit to go answer that here in a second. Remember, the things we've been doing up to this point, from all last week and the week stuff before, we've been doing, quadratic formula, factoring, completing the square, and eventually completing the square molded into finding roots, then eventually molded into max and mins, which is the latest homework that's due tonight. And then now the stuff we started yesterday was finding those the focus and directrix. So that was the new stuff we did yesterday. We're going to continue that today. We have 3. So let's just go through one problem here. I'll make up a problem, something easy. Then we'll go to the more difficult problem. So I'm going to start easy and kind of work our way to a challenging question. So, all right. So the first one here, let's go with, so the first example of the day. Let's go with y is equal to x squared plus 20x minus 5. Just kind of make up a problem here. All right, and again, we might do one where I do an odd number today in the middle, where you have to do decimals or fractions and stuff. We'll do one of those today. Might make it a little bit more challenging. All right, so in this case, we have my numbers here. We have to complete the square. So what do we need to move first on completing the square? Move the 5. So we move the 5, and again, usually on normal completing the square, we have a 0 on the one side. Just leave the y, just imagine that y side is the 0 side. So we move the 5 over there. So just 5 plus y, and then we have the x squared plus 20x. All right, we don't have to factor any number out of the x squared. That's great. This is actually an easy problem. We don't have to do any extra work to this problem. So now what we have to do is just take half the middle and square it. So this is a trinomial over here. If you can see my blue little pen, you can see it okay. What is half the middle? 10, and we square it. 100. And that's what we're going to add to both sides. Because on this one, you'd actually take half the middle squared. You normally take it times the number in the front. There is no number there, so we don't have to worry about that. And that's what we add to the other side. So we're going to add an actual 100 to the other side. So what we're going to get here on this very, very, very left side, we're going to get y plus 105 is equal to, and then we're going to factor this right side up. So factoring the right side, it's going to be x and x. We use the symbol right here, so that's a plus, and then half the middle, which is 10. And there's a number out front. So when we read this off, the vertex that we've done previously, the max and min, the stuff that's due tonight, you just read off the vertex, right? The vertex on this particular problem is -10, -105. That was the stuff we did previously. That was the homework due tonight. But now we're doing that one extra step. That was the stuff we introduced yesterday, where you have to find this, find the distance to the directrix in focus. Okay, so if you want to like a rough sketch what this thing is looking like, this is the idea. So we're over at -10. Here's -10, and then we're down at -105, and so this is where the parabola is starting, the quadratic. And what we're trying to find is the focus point and the directrix point. So if you don't know what those are, a focus is the point on the inside. This is a focus. On like a satellite dish, it's where the eye of the satellite, you know, on a DirecTV box sits. And then the directrix is the line down below it, if you guys can see that. You can just barely see it. That's the line on the bottom. They are the same distance from that vertex, from that lowest point. Again, this point right here is the vertex. So the focus and directrix are the same distance away from it. And again, the directrix is a line. It's not a point, it's a line that's below it. It's like, I compared it yesterday to like the roof of your house. If you have the satellite dish on the roof, you have the eye. The eye is the same distance as the distance from the satellite to the roof of the house. They're the same distance, okay? That's why when they design satellite dishes, they're very particular in the way they design them, so that they work out that way. All right, questions? We're not done yet. Just, we got to this point where we understand like what we're doing. Okay, now what is the number out front of my parenthesis on this one? What is the number right here? It's a 1. That number is the important one. This is the one that we're looking at today, whatever that number is. So on the next problem, I'll let you guys make up a new number. We'll just make up something, not a 1, it could be anything. I'll let you guys make one up. All right, and then what you do is whatever that number is that's out front, that number that you factored off, in my case it's just a 1, you always will set that number equal to 1 over 4c. That's a formula that gives you the distance out to the focus and out to the directrix. So you would take your number, you would solve for c. This is where the algebra 1 comes in. You'd multiply the 4c across. So 4c times 1 is 4c, and you divide by 4, and my c turns out to be a 1/4. And this is that distance. This is that distance to the focus. So we're going 1/4 up and 1/4 down. And so that's how it's always going to work today. So how do I go 1/4 up from -110 or -10, -105? What would be 1/4 up? What would that coordinate be for my focus? If I went 1/4 up from this vertex, what would the coordinate be?
-10, -104, 3/4.
Yep, -10, -104, and 3/4. That's going up 1/4 from -105. So that's perfect. That's the coordinate for that focus. Now for the directrix. So for the directrix, you'd go 1/4 down, right? Instead of going up to find the focus, you go down to find the directrix. The directrix is not a coordinate, so don't tell me it's at -10, -105 and a fourth. It's not that. It's just whatever the y number you'd hit. So for the directrix, you'd actually write it as an equation of a line. So for a directrix, it's y equals, and then whatever y number you'd hit. Well, I'd hit -105 and 1/4 if I went 1/4 down. Because on horizontal lines, it only hits the y-axis, so it's y equals whatever number it hit. If it was a vertical line, it'd be x equals whatever number it hit. So there you go. Those are your two ideas. Take a screenshot of that. All right. Questions on the first one. The hardest part for most people, I think, it's not the complete square. We've done this for like 2 weeks, right? It's actually just the idea of finding a focus and finding the directrix. It's knowing what that coordinate is. Knowing that, okay, I'm going up a number and down a number, and just being able to read that number off really quickly, because you have to know what your vertex is. The vertex is, that's why we did the homework very systematically, so that it makes sense by the way we are doing these types of problems. We just kept adding one more thing. All right, questions though. Don't be afraid to ask. It could be a silly, because I'm betting on there has to be a lot of people that have the same question as you. It's too early for questions right now. Okay, if you do, don't be afraid to ask. Let's go through another one. I want to go through 2 more of these, and then I'll let you just kind of have some time. I know you guys have a lot of tests coming up. Spanish test today, it sounds like. So I'm going to try to give you some time where you can just kind of study. You can work on the homework today. You can answer the Google question today, which is one of these. You just have to do it on your own and submit, where the focus and directrix is, and tell me what the distance was out to that spot. So, okay, I'll let you guys make up a number here. So let's go through another example. So this is going to be my second out of 3 examples. So let's make up a number. Any digit you want. 8? Okay, let's do 8. Okay. So y equals 8x squared plus 32x plus, I'll just make up 7. Just make up a number. Doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay, so just like the last problem, the goal is to find, where the vertex is, and then from there we find the focus and directrix. Okay, this will mimic a lot like the last problem, so don't feel like they're always going to be different. They're kind of the same type of problem. The only real difference is if it's facing up versus down. This one faces up just like the last problem. It's actually probably going to look a lot like the last problem we just did. So hopefully it's going to make sense to you. But we do have to factor out the number out front. So that's the thing that will affect us here. There is an 8 out front. Okay. So let's do the math here. So on this particular problem, we have to move the 7 over. What happens when I move the 7 over? Becomes negative. So negative 7. Okay. And we have the 8x squared plus 32x. Okay, so we moved the 7 over, it became negative. Perfect, fine dandy. Now, we have a number in front of my x squared. We have to factor that number out. So you do have to take that number out. We're not going to divide everything by it. We're just going to take it out of the parenthesis in that back. So if I take out the 8, the number that you guys chose, what is left in that parenthesis? What will be left in that parenthesis if I took out the 8 out of it? What do you guys think? If I took out the 8, what is left in that parenthesis?
X squared plus 4x.
Nice. X squared plus 4x. Because you divided that 8 out, right? Okay. So, all right. Okay, so now we have to take half the middle squared. So half the middle squared, well, half the middle would be 2, right? That's the middle right now is currently 4. So half of it's 2. We square it, and that's 4. Okay, so that's a 4. Now, what are we technically adding to the other side? Because it's not. We're not just going to add the 4 across. What are we actually adding? 32. Now, here's how I know I'm adding 32. Whatever this number is, half the middle squared, you always have to take it times the number out front. That's the number you're adding technically to the other side, because you have to distribute the 8 back through, so that's the reason why. All right, so on the other side of that, the equality symbol, here's what we have. We have y plus, 25 is equal to 8, and now I'm going to factor this right side up. Again, that was negative 7 plus 32, that was 25. So on the right side, it's going to be x and x, it'll be a plus and plus, and half the middle is 2. Okay, so I think we can read off what my coordinate is. What is my vertex on this particular problem? What do we have? Negative 2, negative 25, perfect. So if I was drawing, you know, a rough scale of this, here's negative 2, here's negative 25, so that dot's down here, the thing is going up. So we're going to find that same focus in Directrix again. So focus will be up so many, this will be the focus. The Directrix will be down so many. They're the same distance. Now we have to find that distance here, right? We have to find that distance up to the focus and down to the Directrix from that vertex. So that vertex, negative 2 comma negative 25 is the number I'm going to use here. All right, but let's see. How do we find the distance? What number do we use to find distance? How do we find that distance up to the focus and down to the Directrix? What do we need to use? 1 over 4c. Yep, that's that little formula we use. And what do we set it equal to? What do we set 1 over 4c equal to on this particular problem? Yeah, the 8. The number out front. This number is what we set it equal to. The number out front of the parenthesis, the number you factored off, is the number you always set equal to 1 over 4c, and that's what we use. So we multiply this 4c across, I get 32c, and I divide by the 32. And so that's what I'm coming up with. So my distance to the focus and Directrix is really tiny. So the satellite dish in this particular case, the eye of the satellite's like super close to the satellite itself. It must be a really tiny satellite. And so that's the distance. So if we use that, now we can read off the coordinates. So for the focus, we have to go up 1/32. So the coordinate we'll actually hit for my focus will be this. It'll be negative 24 and 31 30-seconds. I went up 1/32 up. And if I go down 1/32, the Directrix that I'm going to hit, will be y equals, and I'm going to hit negative 25 and 1/32 because I went down 1/32 from 25. That's, you know, where the roof line of the house would be. It'd be right below the satellite itself. Okay, we'll do one more of these. Last one, we'll do one more. Hopefully this is starting to make sense to you. Hopefully you're starting to see the pattern that we're doing, how we do it. Hopefully you're taking notes on this stuff so you know how to do it when you're expected to on the test. Test will be this Friday, remember that. So we'll start reviewing tomorrow and Thursday. If you can't be here, just let me know. I know like some of you have color guard tomorrow, so you'll have to kind of watch the video tomorrow night so you know what to review. And then I think what I'll probably do is maybe like Thursday morning or Thursday after school, I'll kind of have an open spot. I'll just kind of send out a link. If you guys have questions, you can stop in via Zoom tomorrow before school or tomorrow after school, or I guess Wednesday after school, Thursday before, Thursday after. I'll kind of open a couple spots for people to come in and Zoom in and ask questions, or you can just stop in too. So I want to give you some time if you guys have questions and you don't feel like asking in class. So. Okay, last one here. That's the last problem of the day. Last one. Let's do one where maybe we get kind of a little creative on this one. So let's go with y equals negative 5x squared plus, let's go like 10x, and let's go with plus, I don't know, 17. I'll just kind of make up a number here. Okay, this is my last question of the day. So if you've been taking notes, this will be the, let's erase that whole y. Okay, so first thing we always do, move that 17 across, it becomes negative. So on the last assignment, there was a 0 on the one side, fine, just move that number over to the 0 side. Same thing. Now, what's the number I have to factor out of the parenthesis?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. I have to take that out. So if I take out the -5, because that's the number in front of the x squared. So if I take that out, I'll have an x squared, and then I'm taking both numbers divided. So that's why I get the x squared, because -5 divided by -5 is 1x squared. 10 divided by -5 is -2x. And on the other side, I have a y minus 17. So that's dividing the -5 out, just putting it outside the parenthesis. So again, dividing both numbers by -5. Okay, so now, half the middle squared. Well, half the middle is -1. We square it, that's 1. Positive 1, right? And what I have to do is I have to take that number times the number out front. So I'm taking 1 times a -5, and that's what I'm adding to the other side. So I'm adding a -5 to the other side. 1 times a -5 added over. So on the other side, here's what I'm getting. I'm getting y minus, what is that, 22? Is that what that is? 22. And then we have a -5, and I'll factor this side apart. That's x minus 1, because it's the same symbol, it's half the middle. Okay, and again, if you noticed anything, if I'm writing something down, let me know. So, okay, so for the vertex, let's write this down. So the vertex on this particular problem ends up being 1 comma 22. So it's like up in the air. Kind of interesting. We haven't really seen one of those yet. So 1 over and 22 up. And the bowl is actually facing down on this one. The reason why I know the bowl's facing down, if you look at the original problem, we had a -5x squared. X squared means tails go the same direction. Since it's negative, it points downwards. So the focus is actually inside the bowl, right? It's inside the satellite dish. So the focus is actually down on this one. And the directrix is actually up above it. So that's why it's kind of important to know kind of the rough sketch of this thing, so you know which direction you need to go to find the directrix and focus. The focus isn't always up. Sometimes, like on this one, it's down. But now we have to figure out how far we need to go, right? We have to figure out that distance to go find that focus and directrix. Hopefully this made sense, like how you know it's up or down, or you know how we figure out the coordinates. But we need to go figure out that distance. So we always use 1 over 4c. That's how we find the distance, right? And you always set it equal to the number out front of the parentheses. So we're going to set it equal to the -5 that was out front of my parenthesis, right? Again, this is the important number. This is how we find the distance. It's that number right there. In fact, you don't actually need the negative sign. In fact, I'm going to get rid of it. The negative sign just tells me which direction it's going. It's going down. That's all it tells me. It really doesn't tell me anything else. So you can get rid of it. It doesn't matter. We're going to multiply the 4c across. So we get 20c. Divide by 20. And so my distance out to the focus and directrix is 1/20th. So 1/20th is how I get there. So what is the coordinate for the focus? Let's do that one first. What do you guys think? If I went, what? I have to go down 1/20th from 22. What will I hit? Yeah, I'll hit 1 comma 21 and 19/20ths. Because I was at 22 and I went down 1/20th from there. Okay, and then the directrix. Well, I had to go up a 20th, right? 1/20th, I had to go up. So it'll be y equals 22 and 1/20th, because I had to go up. It allows me to write that. That's weird. 1/20th, there we go. So I went up, and that's just whatever that number, y number I hit. All right. There you go. Google question of the day was already submitted. I think it went out like 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. You can go answer it. It's going to be one of these. You're going to have to go find where that focus is, find where the directrix is, tell me where the distance was that you traveled. So you don't have to submit work, you just have to tell me what the answers are. So I want to see the coordinate for the equation for the directrix, the focus point, and then whatever that spacing was, 1/20th, 1/16th, whatever it is. All right, these will be probably the last type of question on your test coming up. I'm expecting a test to be about 9 questions, I think, about 9, kind of 1 from each topic that we'll have, so. All right. For those who are online, you guys are good to go. You guys can check out. You guys can go answer Google question. There's no homework today other than the stuff that was due from last Friday. So if you have not turned in Friday's homework, go get that done.
Mr. Ward,
Yeah, what do you got?
Pictures of these assignments and turn them in.
What was that?
Can I take pictures of these assignments and turn them
Oh yeah, please do. Yes. Yep. You guys will probably see your grades updated tonight. In fact, I needed to finish up my geometry here in 2 seconds and then turn it loose. Go sticking around. If you guys have any questions, fire away.
Mr. Ward,
Yeah, what's up?
how do you find the focus?
The focus is always up or down from the vertex. So if you know where the vertex was, right? It was the coordinate when we did the completing the square process, the 1 and the 22, right? From this problem
Yeah.
right here. What you do
I
is
just don't know how you're getting the fraction.
the 1/4c part. This is this.
At the end of the focus, like how you're getting like 19/20.
Oh, okay, yeah. So from this dot, yeah. So from this dot, this is where I'm currently sitting for my vertex. It's this number right there, right? It's the 1 and 22, right? 1, 22. And the idea is that if I go up or down from there, it just affects the y number. So, because if you go up or down, x isn't changing. It's not moving right or left. The coordinate is just going up or down from 1, 22. So if I went down, right, to find the focus on this one, because the bowl is facing downwards, right? That's the satellite's facing down. If I went down 1/20th from here, think about like a number, like in terms of numbers, right? So here's like the number 22 on a number line. Well, if I went down, that's 21 and 19/20ths. And then I went down again, that'd be 21 and 18/20ths. If I went down by 1/20th. So I'm thinking of like terms of fractions. Because 20/20 is a perfect 1. So this is the same thing as writing 21 and 20/20ths. That's the same thing. So going down 1/20th is that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just subtracting or fractions. That's how we're getting those. So it's just kind of doing the common sense check, if that makes any sense to you. You could type it in a calculator. Most calculators can do fractions and whatnot. So you could actually type in the number 22 on your calculator and then subtract 1/20th. You have an ABC button on your calculator and it'll actually do fractions and tell you what the fraction answer is.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. All right, I'll stop the recording here. I don't need to record all day.